once you've committed, you have a vision or you've got a strategic objective, it's almost like, well, where are you and how are we going to get there? And I think that's really the role that Ruchiie has played with kind of moving us on that journey, really. So
absolutely. So as we know, the procurement processes are pretty extensive by its own. So not embedding sustainability, but if you look at it in isolation, they're pretty extensive. Now, coming to the question of adding sustainability into this extensive process is challenging. As Sue just mentioned about this entire planning stage, clearly has to be very transparent in terms of the vision we have from a starting point to the end goal. I think how we've planned embedding sustainability as a starting point is to create a sustainable procurement strategy. Without a strategy, there is no vision. So we've clearly articulated about 2 years ago what we need to do to add sustainability within this entire procurement process.
At First Group, a lot of our kind of tools and templates are driven by First Group or First Rail. There was a kind of, I suppose, realization about our supplier assurance in the first instance about, how do we do it and, who does it? So Achilles was selected as the solution for us to drive that supplier assurance agenda, not least about sustainability, but everything. And I think a key part of that was that obviously the credentials it has around sustainability as well. So it kind of like ticked a number of boxes for us as a group and within the industry.
It gives us first-hand information, which is accredited, validated. That's what we need. Any information that we source from suppliers is not validated within the procurement process. I think that's the part which is really critical for us when we go to the third parties and we can rely on that information. Embedding sustainability at initial stages can be very process oriented, but then how we can move it in a strategic direction is when the suppliers are onboarded and the steps we take in monthly meetings, QBRs, assisting each other, driving efficiencies through sustainability is the utmost. So I think that's the part we found very useful, embedding sustainability within the procurement process.
I think I would add to that in terms of the kind of breadth and depth or wealth of information and data and processes, templates that are out in the marketplace generally. So not least within our own group with First Group, but procurement professionals, we've been exposed to sustainability for a number of years. So there's with SIPS, which is the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, the RSSB, there's just so many kind of sources of information which has helped. You're not really starting from a blank sheet of paper because there is a lot of content there. So I think it's just the tailoring of that to the respective business, and that's what we've done. And as I say, because we've got group activity as well as local activity, it's almost been a bit of a joint effort as well.
Absolutely,
you'd agree.
So we've mandated a couple of questions in the questionnaire pertaining to sustainability within our documents, templates, which is mandated. Hence, we would ensure that this is it's like a checkbox activity to just sense check that the suppliers are doing the right things. The critical part, as I mentioned, is post having a supplier onboarded, whether they are following what they've told us. So there could be a bit of a gap between us saying we do all good things within the process, but what the reality would be, because we can't make checks at the time of an initial engagement, that plays an important role. So from planning to execution, it's all outlined within our procurement processes and the sustainable strategy. So we make sure with all of the top 10, 20 suppliers, we try to bring sustainability in. I think what we are missing at the minute is an effective contract management at this stage. So that is definitely something we're looking ahead, and very clearly our vision would be to effectively manage the sustainability aspect of the supplier within the contract management. suppliers. When we talk about the contract and the contract management, there are various sustainable KPIs which we can embed, which clearly is a missing link at the minute, but we're encouraging suppliers to be responsible and report us to their sustainable KPIs, from modern slavery to anti-bribery. These are very popular talked about things. We're not overly concerned about this because there's a protocol, but things like carbon net zero, what's your score, what's the footprint, and waste management, pollution. There's so many areas we could link into the contract, KPIs and SLAs, which I think is very critical for success of any procurement process embedding sustainability. We can't live without. So I would definitely encourage that segment within the companies.
Ruchiie's totally right that it's once the supplier's onboarded and in play, I think there's an education piece for our contract managers and our supply relationship managers, such as they are, to kind of drive the agenda through and make sure we're delivering, and then right through to the reporting aspect of that. So I'm very much focused on us driving that improvement in our capability on contract management, supply relationship management, and measurement.
For the third parties, we're starting to inform our bidders during this procurement process right at the start that there is an expectation of them to be members of Achilles. And this is how we make sure that we're not just leaving the planning at a planning stage and then there is a gap on the execution. So we're making sure what we say at the end we're executing. For the encouraging suppliers to do the right thing at a cost is very challenging. So I think the most beneficial way of encouraging them is clearly the mutual benefits, which could be trying to use sustainable suppliers in multiple areas they have got efficiencies in, encouraging them to do the right things and becoming a leader in this domain. It's an upcoming field. Everyone's not sustainable at the minute, so clearly there is an opportunity. Also encouraging suppliers to participate in various other social events and various other platforms available to enlighten them about what benefits it can bring to them in the future. So it might not be short term to the point. It is a long-term journey. We're not going to get sustainability just talking about it now. In 1 year, we are highly sustainable. That's not going to happen. It is a journey. It's going to take time. It's an investment today, so you can reap benefits tomorrow. That's my strategy.
We have had a supplier event for the last 2 years. So when the franchise first started, and that was really to engage with suppliers and share what we were doing at the highest level. I think there is still kind of a few more steps to go to engage more readily with that wider supply base. So that's more of a altruistic kind of engagement with the smaller suppliers, really, to kind of say that if we have some expertise or some tools, then how do we share that with that wider supply base who perhaps don't have that access in a way to some of that.
Adequate training to the staff is also important for them to understand what you mean by sustainability, what are the objectives, why are we doing it, why do you say it's responsible, why the organization should be spending XYZ, doing a more expensive but a sustainable way of things. It's more the awareness piece and the education to be given, not just to the suppliers, but I think to the internal staff as well, which is absolutely critical. And clearly this gets missed a couple of times because we then treat it's just for suppliers, them delivering, but there is a lot we could do internally amongst ourselves as employees, which should be talked about a bit more. Adequate. I think from my perspective, having a leader being very clear about the goals you should be achieving and doing the right thing, that clarity is really required. A lot of times you can have people not being very clear and just say it's a good to have, but having that inspiration to do the right thing and leading the way in this industry, it's an encouragement which I really get from Sue. So I really am appreciative of that.
I think this is a subject that you know, a lot of people shy away from, and oh well, that's not my bag. But Ruchiie has definitely not done that and kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and is our champion, really. So yeah, taking it away.